The poor nanny had learned long ago how to make herself invisible. In the city park, where joggers ran past in expensive shoes and parents scrolled through phones that cost more than her monthly rent, she sat quietly on a weathered bench, hands folded, eyes attentive. Her name was Amna, and she earned just enough to survive, not enough to dream. Every morning she came to this park with the children she cared for, and every morning she reminded herself to be grateful for work, even if it paid little and demanded much. That afternoon, clouds gathered low, heavy with the promise of rain. The swings creaked in the wind, and fallen leaves skittered across the paths. Amna's charge, a sleepy toddler named Ryan, had finally dozed off in his stroller. She pulled a thin shawl tighter around her shoulders and watched the park with the quiet awareness of someone used to noticing what others ignored. That was when she heard the crying. It wasn't the loud, dramatic sob of a child who had scraped a knee. It was thin and panicked, like a sound trapped in a small chest. Amna stood immediately, scanning the playground. Near the climbing frame, a little girl stood frozen, her hands clenched into the straps of a tiny pink backpack. Tears streamed down her face, and her breaths came in sharp, uneven gasps. The adults nearby barely glanced at her. Some assumed her parent was close. Others didn't want to interfere. Amna hesitated for only a second, long enough to ensure Ryan was secure, then walked toward the girl. She crouched slowly, careful not to startle her. "It's okay, Beta," she said softly. "I'm here." The girl's eyes were wide with terror, unfocused, as if she were looking at something far worse than a busy park. She shook her head, unable to speak, her small body trembling. Amna recognized it immediately. Fear like that didn't come from a lost toy. It came from feeling alone. She sat on the ground beside the girl, ignoring the dampness seeping through her thin dress. "Can you tell me your name?" she asked gently. The girl tried, but only a sob came out. "That's all right," Amna said, her voice steady. "You don't have to talk. Just breathe with me." She placed a hand over her own heart and exaggerated a slow inhale, then an even slower exhale. After a moment, she nodded encouragingly. The girl's breathing began to match hers, uneven at first, then gradually calmer. "My name is Amna," she continued. "And you're safe right now. I promise." The girl clutched her sleeve as if it were a lifeline. "I can't find my papa," she whispered finally, the words tumbling out in a rush. "He was right there. And then there were so many people, and I couldn't see him anymore." Amna's heart tightened. "What's your name?" "Zara." "That's a beautiful name," Amna said. "Zara, sometimes grown-ups get distracted. It doesn't mean they've left you. It just means we need to help each other find them." Zara's lower lip trembled. "What if he doesn't come back?" Amna thought of her own childhood, of days when hunger felt like abandonment and promises went unkept because life was unkind. She met Zara's eyes. "Parents always come back for their children," she said, with a certainty born not of experience, but of hope. "And until he does, I'll stay with you." She wrapped her shawl gently around Zara's shoulders. It was old and threadbare, but it was warm. Zara leaned into her without hesitation, her sobs quieting into sniffles. Minutes passed. The wind picked up. The first drops of rain began to fall. Across the park, a man was running. He was tall, well-dressed even in his panic, his expensive coat flapping open as he scanned faces desperately. His phone was pressed to his ear, his voice tight with fear. "No, she was right here," he said. I turned around for 1 second. His name was Cameron Ahmed, and he owned half the buildings that surrounded the park. He was used to control, over markets, meetings, and numbers with too many zeros. But at that moment, none of it mattered. His world had narrowed to one small girl with a pink backpack. He spotted them near the climbing frame. His heart nearly stopped. Zara was sitting on the ground, wrapped in a shawl, her head resting against a woman's shoulder. The woman was speaking softly, her hand moving in slow circles on Zara's back. Zara looked calm. Safe. Cameron ran toward them, calling her name. Papa. Zara sprang up, breaking free and racing into his arms. He dropped to his knees, holding her tightly, his face buried in her hair. I'm here, he whispered again and again. I'm here. Zara clung to him, then pulled back slightly and pointed. She helped me. Cameron looked up at Amna for the first time. She stood, brushing dirt from her clothes, already stepping back, ready to disappear as she always did. She was very brave, Amna said. She just needed someone to sit with her. Cameron saw the wear in her shoes, the tired lines in her face, the kindness in her eyes. Thank you, he said, his voice thick. You have no idea what this means to me. Amna nodded politely. Gratitude was something she received often in words, rarely in ways that changed anything. Anyone would have done the same, she said, though she knew that wasn't true. Cameron reached into his wallet, pulling out bills without counting. Please, he said. Take this. Amna's expression hardened slightly. She shook her head. I didn't help her for money. He paused, embarrassed. I didn't mean. I know, she said gently. But kindness isn't a service. It's a duty. Zara tugged on her father's sleeve. Papa, she stayed even when I was crying. Cameron closed his wallet slowly. Then at least tell me your name. Amna. Amna, he repeated, committing it to memory. You did what many people walked past. I won't forget that. Amna smiled faintly. I should get back, she said, glancing toward the stroller where Ryan was stirring. The rain is coming. Cameron followed her gaze. You're a nanny? Yes. Where do you work? She hesitated, unsure why he was asking, then answered honestly. He nodded. If you ever need anything, he said, handing her a card. Anything at all. She accepted it out of politeness, fully expecting it to become just another useless piece of paper. That evening, Amna returned to her small room above a tailor's shop. She cooked lentils on a single burner and ate quietly, listening to the rain against the tin roof. The park felt like a dream, already fading. 2 days later, her phone rang. A woman's voice spoke carefully. Is this Amna? Yes. This is from the Ahmed Foundation. Amna's stomach tightened. Yes? We'd like to meet with you. She almost refused. Experience had taught her to distrust promises. But something in the voice was sincere. The foundation office was nothing like any place Amna had been before. Glass walls, polished floors, quiet efficiency. She sat nervously, hands folded, until Cameron entered. He greeted her with respect, not pity. I've been thinking about what you said, he told her. That kindness is a duty. She listened, unsure where this was going. I built my life on ambition, he continued. But when my daughter was terrified, it wasn't my money that saved her. It was you. He slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents for a full-time position, not as a nanny, but as a caregiver coordinator for children from low-income families, with training, benefits, and a salary that made Amna's breath catch. I want someone like you, Cameron said, to help us build something that matters. Tears filled her eyes, unbidden. Why me? Because you stayed, he said simply. Amna accepted the offer with trembling hands. Weeks later, she returned to the park. This time with Zara, who ran ahead laughing, fearless now. Amna watched her, heart full, knowing that one moment of quiet kindness had changed more than one life. She still wore the same shawl, but she no longer felt invisible. And in a world that often rushed past fear and pain, she had learned that sometimes, sitting down and staying was enough to move mountains.